what we'll do now is I will, through the magic of technology, find Ryan and make him the presenter. And Ryan's very kindly put himself forward to present how he went about this particular challenge of occupancy and meeting social distancing. So Ryan's going to give his perspective. Then we're going to ask Rudiger, our BLA, to share his slides. I've got your slides up if you want, by the way, Rudiger, when we get to that, or I can make you the presenter. Then Will from Aldi will just share a bit verbally about what they've been doing, but then we'll come back to the major group and we'll go through the matters that are arising as per the 8 questions. So over to you, Ryan. Looking forward to hearing your perspective.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. All right. So a little bit about Meijer first. I'll go back one slide here. Just so you guys understand what and how and why we deployed the way we did for an occupancy solution. Meijer is a family-owned grocery and general merchandise big box with fuel and pharmacy offerings. We have 250 retail locations in 6 states, 7 food manufacturing facilities, 5 distribution facilities, specialty pharmacy operations in our main footprint, as well as on the East Coast and West Coast. And then we do some global sourcing in some various locations, Hong Kong and Bangladesh. Myself, Ryan Themm, I've been with Meijer for 10 years now. I did some time with Target, and I've always kind of been an IT and camera technology enthusiast. I've taken the unofficial title of Video Czar for Meijer. So on to the problem, the COVID-19 problem, an occupancy problem, and some of our solution evaluation process. So I guess one of the main challenges with COVID-19 regulations, state by state, we were seeing different speeds at which they wanted to deploy occupancy regulations and other regulations. So that was one of the main challenges. The other challenge was, obviously you can fix anything with labor. And so we started using lots of it to try to adhere to the different regulations. So we were spending lots of additional labor in the front of our Meijer buildings. And just to kind of paint the picture, a Meijer building typically has 2 main entrances in anywhere from 150,000 to 250,000 square foot retail store. And so we have a general merchandise and a grocery entrance to our stores. And so staffing those became problematic with additional, beyond our greeters. We kept our greeters in place, and then we put additional staffing up front to help count people so we can maintain occupancy regulations in different areas. Meijer took the approach to try to use a formula and go with the most strict regulations to try to keep things simple for our field teams. And then things get a little bit more complicated when you open up. Meijer also has a garden center, so when those started opening up this spring during this pandemic, we also had to throw labor resources at managing how many people are in that outdoor indoor transition space, and then it's an additional entrance from that space into our store. So hopefully that paints a pretty good picture of what problem we had to solve. We worked with our operations area, our IT area, as kind of in our construction areas, the primary partners to evaluate, what solution costs were out there, what infrastructure we had or was involved in different solutions. We wanted a simple solution for our retail locations so that they could focus on themselves, staying healthy, and making our customers feel safe, healthy, and focus on business and the other essential needs of the business. So something that didn't need a lot of additional labor or the stores to take a lot of additional actions was kind of critical to what we were looking for. We wanted something that was accurate so that we could get notifications and reporting, and if called upon in some sort of compliance request, we could supply records to show that we were in compliance with occupancy regulations. So those were the things we were evaluating. When it comes down to some of those other solutions we looked at, I'll talk about a couple of those. We did look at some sensor solutions, and there was different levels of those. A lot of the solutions we looked at for different sensors were really focused on supplying solutions for smaller spaces with not high traffic. A Meijer, a medium to high volume Meijer store might see a couple thousand customers flow through, no problem in a day. So, and with two main entrances where a lot of that traffic can flow, some of the sensor solutions weren't really geared for that. And then, although a lot of those sensor solutions kind of had some different tiers of products, a lot of those had different router or transmitter technologies where they could in cloud services. So we looked at kind of those as not needing a lot of internal infrastructure available as potential options. But when it came down to it, a lot of them needed some sort of end device that we needed to deploy as what would provide the notifications to operate. So there was still some sort of infrastructure or cost to get a new smart device or get a new tablet to get with some of those other sensor solutions out there if we were going to use a cloud solution for our to deploy a solution. So ultimately, we have a camera management system at Meijer that manages all of our security risk investigation needs currently. We use a Genetec as our camera management system. So we already had a pretty good infrastructure in place where we can plug in a camera easy to use video analytics, and we hadn't used video analytics very much throughout the organization yet. So we evaluated one of the Genetec solutions for people counting using their Kiwi Analytic plugin, and they were also kind of applying some new integrating it with some other tools that were designed for traffic analytics to kind of help provide not only just a people count, but a notification and reporting apparatus to let us use a video analytic to using our current infrastructure, which we had in place. So really what we had to do was look at what the cost was going to be to add a camera or 3 cameras if we have 3 entrances into our main building, and then the associated cost to install the hardware, the labor, and the licensing and stuff to plug that in, pay for it, and put it up to try to get an ROI versus our labor. So high level. Good. You got a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Just I know that accuracy, may be one of the sort of dimensions of more importance, but you say you looked at accuracy. I mean, how are you trying to measure accuracy?
So what we did, and we're still learning this as we go, we're actually still rolling out additional stores because we see the waxing and waning of what's happening with COVID-19 right now. Right now, we're currently in 16 stores. We'll be in probably 30 or 35 stores by mid-July. But accuracy really is a validation of, we'll count 50 people coming through the door, visually validate, and look at what the analytic counted. And so our accuracy, how much are we plus or minus that? And then basically we go in and we can play around with a bunch of things in the configuration to adjust camera settings or adjust camera position. One of the challenges in a big retail store like ours is we've got 40 different versions of our store out there. Some of them are 40 years old, some of them are 4 years old. And so when you try to find a nice spot over, and in a couple of the next slides, you'll get to see some shots of what position that camera's in, but finding a nice open view of that choke point coming in those entrances can be the challenge. So, and if you don't have a good angle there, it gives you have challenges where you got to rely more on camera configuration, but that position's really one of the core things to have good accuracy with the analytic that we found.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. High level. So this is a part of the problem solution evaluation is, hey, can we afford to pay for this? We looked at what we were spending in labor, and an average to high volume store where we had to throw more labor at those 3 entrances I told you about to maintain a people count, which was a very manual process, and also prone to some error and miscounts by folks as they get distracted in different tasks. We were spending up to about $4,000 a week on labor associated with that. So when we looked at the solution with the 3 camera deployment, we found that we could deploy on our current camera management system with some of these new video analytics at about $8,000 a store. So we would see about a 3-week payout on this paying for itself on eliminating that focused person counting labor. So, and working on a lot of capital projects related to video projects and other asset protection products related to shrink. I know that's a pretty quick turnaround for an ROI and paying for itself. So we were pretty excited about that. How it works. So as I said, this was one of our first pilot stores that we deployed in. It was actually a 1 entrance store that we deployed in first. A couple of our higher risk stores are close to metropolitan areas and have 1 main entrance. There's still kind of an in and out side that we try to flow folks through in those, but the analytic works best with an absolutely straight top-down view. This one was not quite top-down because we couldn't get it quite close enough to do exact top-down, but when we're able to kind of set confidence levels and use some different presets in the analytic to set confidence levels and then test where we can really do that validation part to make sure. Our goal was to have at least 90% accuracy. When we kind of did some reviews of how we were counting with manual labor, we felt anything over 90% accuracy would keep us in compliance with knowing when and what the actions we want to drive with the analytic telling us that, hey, we're getting close to that occupancy limit. So 1 camera per entrance we plugged in. It's running some plugins in our camera management system that identifies folks coming in and going out across a line, and you see that yellow line there is kind of those breakpoints that they're going in. At our store, we have kind of 2 spots, either inside our interior set of doors, or we have a vestibule where there's an additional set of doors, so we could put that camera on either side of those and have that funnel point. And in between our EAS towers really is that tightest funnel point with the different types of doors that we have in different buildings. And a couple of our higher risk stores have this I would call it a security guard or greeter stand that are in the middle. So we kind of had to move some of our lines around to keep our accuracy up and not get those folks moving around impacting our occupancy number. And then you also see that we did some things taping the ground. There's lots of tapes in retail buildings when you go in there today with people getting directed to do different things and go different places. And so we did the same thing for our greeters and our security folks, saying basically stay outside that line so you don't get counted. And so that really helped with accuracy. And then the accuracy really, there's some configuration you can do, but you can set it to reset at different times. Ours is for the dashboard, you can reset it anytime, and then for the analytic, it'll reset at midnight, and we're shutting our stores down at midnight, so that really aligns with kind of resetting and zeroing out for the next business day. And we are counting team members coming in and out too, so as those next shifts come in the early morning, we're getting them on the count. Moving on to how are we going to use it. Really, we set an occupancy number, and some of these screenshots were some initial pilot examples we did. Our occupancy numbers are quite a bit above 220, but it's really done for an example. So the example here was shown that we set an occupancy limit at 220. In the screenshot at the bottom there, you see that the analytic had counted 211. The widget tells us, that's 96% of our occupancy. And based on different event to action things that our camera management system allows us to do, when we hit that near threshold, we have it create an alarm that pops up for our ops center. They make a quick call and say, hey, you guys need to start, direct the store to start preparing for line queuing at the doors to manage staying below the occupancy limit. And then obviously the additional step is if you hit that occupancy level, and it's an additional notification where we take more directed action saying, hey, you guys are at the limit, stop all incoming traffic, let 20 or 30 people out, and then manage line queuing until we let you know that you're down kind of out of the red or yellow zone for occupancy limit. So we tested that in 2 stores initially, rolled it out to a 3rd store that had more entrances and was really high volume, and had some really good results with accuracy and just really being able to see the numbers and manage it. High level, we roll it out, so our ops center is managing it. As we roll it out to more locations, our camera management system has the ability to go to mobile apps that we already have. We already have devices that the application can work on, both on Apple and Android platforms in our stores. So we're in the process of researching and developing with IT ways to roll that package out to those different devices so that the store can eventually get and take action on the notifications themselves. Anyone that has a command center, there's a bandwidth issue if we've got 250 retail stores trying to manage occupancy limits at drive time would be problematic. So we're planning ahead and still working on a little bit of the R&D for rolling out what would be the next piece here. So on this slide, you can kind of see we've got my iPad here. It's giving us a notification that we're over or near the threshold. And so that's kind of an example of what our stores will be able to do when we deploy to like the store manager's Apple device or team leaders or lines leaders, managers in the store. They've got different Android type devices that they can use. They would get these type of alarms so they could take those actions. And then from a compliance standpoint, we can do some reporting, and there's still things our ROC would do to check on compliance with that to help drive good action, good compliance, and keep us out of those regulators' crosshairs as far as like getting complaints and them coming in and needing to audit us on that type of stuff.
Just to be clear, ROC stands for?
It's our SOC, if you will, a remote operations center. It's an AP staffed 24/7 command center that really are admins and monitorers of our camera management system. And so they do a lot of event to action monitoring of different types of alarms. This is an additional current thing they're monitoring with COVID-19 is occupancy alarms. They also monitor motion alarms and other device triggered alarms for the camera management system.
And Everbridge, what's an Everbridge mean?
Everbridge is a mass communication tool that Meijer uses. This is we use it more of as a senior leadership and field leadership mass notification tool. So if we have an at occupancy limit alarm, we're going to send out an alert to the field, so a market director, the regional vice president. They're going to know that one of their stores hit that, and it can trigger a knowledge. They're in the know on that. They can follow up with their stores and make sure that they're taking the appropriate actions to address occupancy concerns.
Thank you.
No, good question. So that's really the path and where we're at today with the Meijer solution. Some of the things that we're still learning and developing on, but were important as we got started, integrator expertise. So the integrators we used to help us set this up on the platform needed to kind of be experts on how to use, configure the analytic, and then work with the boots on the ground that are installing the cameras to make sure they're mounted right, to make sure they're adjusted right, and make sure there's really an ideal way to mount them. In a big box with anything, even as folks have explored facial recognition and anything else, everything's where do you put it, and where is it going to not get bumped and not be in the way, but be the most accurate. So having a good team to go and do that and be experts in it was super important for this to be accurate. having the established infrastructure or tools for, or a platform. So not having to get and maintain new smart devices out there with some of the other solutions we saw as a win, because we already had a platform we're using that folks are trained to use. We've got AP in every building that are trained to use the Genetec platform. So if we have to roll out an additional mobile app for our leadership, we saw as an easy win and training opportunity for our train-to-trainer opportunity for our folks, our AP team leads that are in our stores can help us roll out if we need to show a new team leader or store manager how to look at, respond to, or pull up something on an app that we roll out. Camera location and customer flow choke points, obviously that's the main thing you have to solve for. Where am I going to put this thing if it's going to be successful? Our garden center doors are a little bit less constrained. They don't have an EAS tower in the inner set of doors that we put them on. We decided not to go with an external camera on our exterior gate where folks can enter, more just to monitor the actual occupancy in the store, and we were less worried with that space outside. So we really focused on where can we put one in that garden center door space. But that's one of those kind of critical things to validate. And then accuracy validation, we really used our ROC team, our ops team, to really do the counts and see where the analytic is, and then we push that back on our integrator to make sure that they're making those adjustments for us and getting us kind of above that 90% accuracy rate. And then really flexibility, ease to update those occupancy numbers was a big one. We've seen the numbers change. Now they're expanding, letting more people in, so we've been able to bump those numbers up. We may be locking them back down the way things are going, but it's easy to do that. Our ops center owns that, and kind of with what those central occupancy numbers are across the org, we can get that updated list, update it, and the stores are good to go. They don't have to do anything, and it really is a simple solution for the stores. All they have to do is receive a notification or receive a phone call currently and take action. Questions?
Yeah, if I could just start off, I mean, one of the things we talked about as we prepared this, Ryan, was just where do we see, has this all become redundant once we've solved this pandemic, or do you see some value in the investment in other use cases?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was one of the other criteria. Hey, we need a solution right now. That was the direction. Go get something and get it fast and make it work fast. So really solving the occupancy problem was the central. But when I pitched this solution to the senior leadership, the other things I shared were, hey, down the line we do have other metadata here. How many customers are coming in the buildings, and at what rates, and at what door, general merchandise versus grocery, and at what time of day. Those are all business value data that we could use and share and get additional value with our other business area operations for sure. If we've got an influx of 100 customers in a half hour at one of our stores, maybe there's a notification we can send out so that they can staff up the lanes better. We have better customer service, customer service feedback at that location if we can better staff the lanes when we have increase in traffic. And then our camera management system also is integrated with a point of sale overlay, so we can see real-time transaction data and historical transaction data. So we also know and are very much working to say, hey, what else can we do with people coming in versus how many sales do we have? So some sort of conversion rate in the future, and then even getting down into more detail around, hey, how many people came in the general merchandise side, and can we come up with some sort of conversion number for general merchandise type product by category? Because I mean, we have UPC, category key, all that stuff already in the place that we're pulling this new occupancy and people counting in and out data. So we definitely see the value in our working with our retail, marketing, IT partners to understand what we can do in the future. Once we roll out and solve the occupancy problem, definitely see some additional value in the future with using that data to help make good business decisions and or serve the customer better.